This time, we're taking a look at the exciting yet disappointing Matrix Revolutions. Along the way, we ask, how does the Smith fight manage to feel anticlimactic? Why does the script lack the existential monologues? And what happened to everyone after these films released? Why do we podcast? Because we choose to. This is Forcefedscifi. Hey everyone, welcome back to another awesome episode of Forcefedscifi. My name is Agent Sean Michael Cope, and along with me is my friend and co-host.
I am Chris Rupp.
And along with us for another round is our friend, producer, my cousin.
The one.
The only.
Possessed by Agent Smith, Jeremy Keski.
Beautiful. Who would have thought that over the course of 18 years, the Wachowskis would build up a less than stellar filmography after the other Matrix films and return to the well that is their baby, their stories. They're coming out with Matrix Resurrections, and this is a great time for us to explore the remainder of the Matrix series.
Well, Chris, when in doubt with Hollywood, just go back to the well.
Crank out a legacy sequel when in doubt.
They'll pay for that, a new generation of kids. So we'll see when we see that. But first, synopsis time. Let's please, Chris, enrich our lives with Revolutions.
So, for lack of a better sentence, this picks up immediately after Reloaded left off. We get that shot of Neo has just fried a bunch of Sentinels with his hands in the real world, and he's in a comatose-like state, trapped in this way station, I guess. And Revolutions brings the Matrix trilogy, or what we thought was a trilogy, to a close. Neo chooses to go back into the Matrix, and he wants to destroy Smith, who's now completely overtaken the Matrix, this horrible, awful, assimilating virus. And also at the same time, we have Morpheus and the other captains. They have to return to Zion to assist in defeating the machine army that's set to come and kill them all. So 2 fights, different fronts, both with the same objectives, ending the war and bringing about peace.
But will it have the payoff?
That remains to be seen. It takes 2.5 hours to get to that payoff.
The longest build for a battle. 2 battles. Oh, and with this film, thank you for the synopsis, as always. Brilliant. With this film, the Wachowski sisters, who were formerly the brothers, directed it. Surprise, surprise. And we have, Keanu, Lawrence, Carrie Ann Moss, Hugo Weaving. Anyone new?
Yeah, it's largely the same cast. We have some minor additions here and there. We have little girl Tanvir Kayatwal plays little girl Sati. David Roberts plays Captain Roland. He briefly appeared in the first film, and I think he gets more of a bigger stage. He definitely gets some more lines of dialogue. We have Bruce Spence as the train man, kind of everyday ghoulish looking Australian actor, appears in a lot of things. Also, on a tragic note, we have Gloria Foster, who originally played the Oracle in the previous 2 films. She had passed away after her shooting of her scenes for the second film were completed, and was replaced by Broadway actress and Emmy Award winner Mary Alice, who also does a great job in this movie, but another tragic note. These it seems to permeate these series, because we had Aaliyah who passed away in the second film, and then we also have Gloria Foster passing away as well.
Yeah, it is a little bit jarring.
This was kind of glossed over at the time when she passed away. Like, I don't remember hearing anything about it, and they certainly explain why the character changed between the second and the third film. But this isn't like Richard Harris dying after 2 Harry Potter movies and being replaced by Michael Gambon. Like, there was next to no fanfare or major mourning after Gloria Foster died.
Right. Just kind of, all right, new person.
Cast someone else, move on.
Which you'd think, because she's so integral to the plot, that you'd say something, but, whatever. Maybe they didn't want to detract too much from it, is what it is.
They didn't make a big deal about it. I think they explained it off in the movie as what, like a change in the program or something.
Yeah, which, I mean, it sucks because there's really nothing they could do. It's just one of those things. Mortality.
Is it one of those things in the movie like you don't pay attention and you miss it kind of thing? Like, like when you're driving, like if you get behind this bush, like you cannot see that building kind of thing.
Right? And I mean, to me, it does take you out of the movie for a little bit because you're like, oh, what is this? But then, you just got to accept it. And I think she does a good job. She tries because it's so hard to replace someone that's had 2 films to build up,
Well, then she's also assimilated by Smith, so she's really not in the film that much.
Exactly. Which, that would have been a little bit more of a punch with the regular, but, life happens. But enough about that. So this film is part 2, right? You said they filmed it all in one go, 18 months.
Big budget for this film, as was with the second film. I think this was budgeted between 110 and 150 million dollars. So between Reloaded and Revolutions, Warner Brothers committed a minimum of $250 million for these 2 films. And that's on the low side of things. And we have to figure as well that they spent at least $100 million in marketing, at least a second film. So there's a good bet that they spent $400 million on these 2 films. That's an ungodly amount of money. Nowadays, that gets you like 8 films.
Yeah, they really wanted it to pay off, That's just a lot of money. That's insane.
That's so much money.
Imagine being a director too. Like, you've only done a couple films, and all of a sudden, here you go, take all this.
You have $300 million to play with for 2 movies? Oh my gosh.
And you have to make that money back or else your career is done.
Yes.
No pressure. No pressure.
None at all.
But for this one, they did filming primarily in Sydney, Australia, which is kind of exciting, at Fox Studios.
Yeah, there was a big boon, I would say, around this time. A lot of productions were in New Zealand and Australia. Obviously, the Lord of the Rings films played a big part in that. And then we also have the emergence of several prominent filmmakers. We have Taika Waititi, who is now a regular contributor to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We also have Jermaine Clement and his creations of What We Do in the Shadows with Taika Waititi and the vast empire he's created. Also, too, we have notes of a lot of injuries happening during this production. Like Carrie Ann Moss broke her leg.
Yeah, that sucks.
Hugo Weaving had a slipped disc in his neck. He was, I guess, there was a story he was pulled back too hard on a harness, and it caused him neck pain for a long time.
That sucks.
Yeah. Nowadays, like, we hear Tom Cruise breaking his ankle, and we're just like, oh, it's Tom Cruise. Like,
he's always doing that.
We don't hear about injuries on set anymore, like unless or if it's Harrison Ford getting his foot crushed on the door of the Millennium Falcon.
That's because I don't think many actors nowadays do their own stunts like back in the day. Because I know Hugo Weaving, he's notorious for that. Willem Dafoe, Harrison Ford, Daniel Craig, Tom Cruise. But a lot of people nowadays, they have the stunt doubles, which, as The Rock put, it's, people pay to see him, and why damage the product? Especially if you're making 4 or 5 movies a year.
Well,
you don't want to get hurt.
Well, like in a Tom Cruise situation, I mean, he broke his ankle on Mission Impossible Fallout, and it delays production, and it can also delay the release, and put people like out of work essentially for 2 months because you want to prove how big a man you are with your 5'6" stature.
Though it's just the dedication to the craft, Chris. That's all it is.
Sure. Let's get into Revolutions right away, right off the bat.
Sure.
So I have to say, like, and I think we touched on this a little bit when we were talking Reloaded. The addition of having Smith find a way to immerse himself in the real world and be like not so much like the villain in the forefront, but working in behind the scenes to kill off other ships and other crew members. But I had to say I was a bit disappointed to see Bane, the human embodiment of Smith, be killed off almost a bit too early in this movie. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Yeah, I mean, and we briefly talked about it before we started recording, but at the end of Reloaded, you kind of the movie makes it seem like it's going to be a big deal. Like it's like how it closes out. Neo and Bane on a table next to each other. Like you think it might be some big plot point coming up, but not really. That's not what we get.
No, Smith just goes on his murder feud. Like he just murders the doctor lady, and then, I mean, when does? Because Neo leaves to go to the city, right? And then he tries to murder him on the way to the city and blinds him. But yeah, he does kind of get killed off early, but I guess he had to get back to the regular. I don't know. It served its purpose, I think, because him being in the world, he already did. I don't think there's anywhere else that he could go, with that, because he ended up destroying all the ships, right, by detonating the EMP. I mean, the only other place would be to murder everyone on the crew, which he just did the doctor, and then, so, it is what it is.
Well, and it happens right away as the other ship leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh, well, we can't go back now. We can't help them out because then he has an EMP. And I just feel like that sequence where Bane emerges and attacks Trinity and Neo would have been better saved for when the ships do separate. There's a bit more distance between the two, and Trinity and Neo have made it to the surface and are approaching the machine world.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes that shutdown and delay. I feel like it would have been better served if it were just moved more in the middle of the second act as opposed to the end of the first act. Because it was great having this embodiment of Smith there confronting Neo, although I am a little confused as to how nobody figured out that this is the embodiment of Smith at the table as they're interrogating Bane.
Because he talks like Smith. That's the best part. Mr. Anderson.
Like, somehow I have these cuts on my arm. Looks like they were self-inflicted, but I don't know. Like, you mean to tell me nobody figured out that was Smith at the table? Nobody figured out, like, hey, you don't sound like you. Are you okay, buddy?
Maybe Bane was just always the guy lost in the background. I don't know.
And I know I've been giving the monologues a lot of grief, especially for Reloaded, but Bane's monologue to Neo is probably the most interesting of these two films. And it really, it's compelling, and it helps to humble Neo a little bit. Like, yes, you are the one. Your powers extend beyond the Matrix, but at the same time, you're still very vulnerable in your human state. You're not Superman here in this world. You're mortal. You deal with pain. Obviously, Neo is blinded as a result of this fight. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, it was immensely satisfying watching Neo grab that pipe and literally bash his head off.
That was cool. I love that. And then how he saw Smith, and he was fire through the regular world. That was pretty cool.
Don't know what that fire symbolizes, though.
No idea.
Yeah, well, he loses his vision to a point, and then all of a sudden now he can see the world in a different way, I suppose. I don't know.
I think he's only able to see, the machine's source code. And ultimately, Smith, regardless of how he's untethered from his original programming, he's still a product of the machine world. So that code is still there for him. It just exists in a different way. Because there's a contrast between how the code looks on Smith versus how it looks on the machine world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you were saying, Sean, it looks like it's almost like fire or smoke coming off of him. Almost like he's this destructive force.
The devil.
Yeah, he's the devil.
And Neo is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So it's like we get the heavy religious elements in this film. Yeah, and I think it is only for machines or some part of that world, because he didn't see Trinity when she gets impaled. Like, he doesn't see her body, all lit up, because he doesn't know.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for clearing the murky waters of my disillusionment.
I tried. That's what we're here for, right?
What did you think? So, through this film, the big thing that Did they like the guy, the general guy that's like hoorah hoorah? Who is he?
It's Captain Mifune.
Mifune. He was in the second one, but just briefly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when they landed, he was there to help Morpheus get off the ship or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's not. They really like dive deep into him in this one. He's like hoorah.
Very much hoorah. And this is something that we did not see in the first film. In the briefest moments we meet Captain Mifune, and then all of a sudden here, like the captain is the hoorah guy.
Right?
Like, you're not in the Marine Corps.
Maybe he's their version of the Marines. I know he's very what a rousing speech he gives them. If it's our time to die, it's our time to die.
I feel like this was like their best attempt at a tribute to Sergeant Apone's character from Aliens.
Yeah, it didn't. I don't know. For me, it was just kind of meh. It didn't really, razzle dazzle me.
Well, it doesn't help me that there's no clear hierarchy in terms of like who's in charge, who are the non-commissioned officers, who are the enlisted men. Because we have Commander Locke, and then apparently a whole bunch of subordinates. Then they're Captain Mifune, and then a whole bunch of underlings there. Like there's no structure to this military unit. Like who is picked to go into those APUs? Who's picked to be the ammo runners? Who's picked to work in the operations center? Like how does all this work?
And apparently they have training, but the kid never finished it. But neither did the guy, the commander. So it's like, it doesn't make sense, the organization. I really feel like it's just people, you're good at this, go. And they just throw them against the wall.
Like I made the note that it would have been nice to have some sort of like sergeant type of character. But then again, this movie's already so bloated with characters, you can't add another one and have them feel memorable or make them feel a part of the plot without just totally forgetting who they are.
Just too big of a cast, I think. Too much detail already. So they went with it. What did you think about that, though? Like, because, once they introduced the Mifune, once he's in it, he's like big in the action. He is the guy that's shooting the 50 cal out of those robots at those machines.
Big guns.
Big guns.
Big bullets. Oversized guns.
Huge. But oddly impractical because they can only hold 2 cartridges and they need people to go out to reload them.
Oh my God. Those have to be the worst designed like exosuits, weapons ever conceived.
I think they just designed them that way for that one emotional scene. It has to be.
Has to be. Like, and you mean to tell me after all of this time how long Zion has been there? You mean to tell me that this is the best type of weapon system you can offer up is putting men in these APUs, exposing them to combat, hellfire, and death, and once they're out of ammunition, exposing more people to hellfire, combat, and death just to reload the stupid things?
I don't think so.
It's the worst designed weapon system I've ever seen.
That was my question, too, because, like, they have the guns, with the laser. I'm like, why don't these things have lasers that just, like, plug them in somewhere and zap them? Like,
supposed to be, what, the 23rd, 24th century or something? You mean to tell me this is the best we can offer up? There's a bunch of turrets and homemade rockets?
They built Zion. The water machine can convert it into energy. And
don't forget the rave cave that's very dirty.
That's right.
Well, apparently they're lacking on the military side. They don't have any organization, and the weapon systems for defense is not very good.
Apparently for this iteration, just the old Neo just didn't pick the right guys. He didn't pick the 7 dudes or 16 women to repopulate that were military inclined.
I just feel like they had to have understood that there was a distinct possibility that the machines would amass an army and would try to destroy Zion at some point. And you didn't spend any other time on weapons development other than like, oh, we have turrets, and then our citizens can build homemade rockets that for sure won't explode when they try to put these together in their own homes.
They put all the money in the ships.
It's just anytime you hear about somebody making homemade explosives, it always ends poorly. Yeah. And you see Z loading up rockets, and I think it's like her sister or sister-in-law comes over, and it's like, what are you doing? I'm building rockets. Like, aren't you worried like something's gonna blow up? Like, why are you doing this? Like, I want to help. Like, don't they have other rockets that they've already built?
Though,
Why is this your job?
was this the scene in this film where the two girls are like shooting the rockets at the digger?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. I liked how loading, but the rocket design didn't make sense to me at all. And why was she so close? Because like it explodes and shoots. I'm like, what? No, but whatever. And the targeting, like, it was cool. I felt the tension. Oh, they almost got the digger, but then the missile just missed.
Yep. It hit a sentinel, and then people died.
Oh yeah, they brutally murdered her sister. Poor girl.
I mean, and I think we've touched on it a little bit. I think we can definitely praise the action scenes once again this time around. I mean, as anticlimactic as this film feels at times, the Wachowskis do a great job of crafting these action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the club shootout scene in that lobby there is awesome to watch.
Oh yeah, that's so cool with the Frenchman. Trinity Gigi just pulls the gun on him. Very cool. Very cool.
Well, that shot where she kicks the gun up in the air and catches it and points it right at his head. It's like, I don't have time for this crap.
Oh yeah, and the rave club, because they have to have a rave in every single one of these freaking movies.
I kind of like that they almost had the Merovingian kind of blinded by just wanting more power, like they kind of mentioned in Reloaded. He's a man who just wants power, and he's like he asks for the Oracle eyes, and then Trinity just says screw this, like he's like completely like caught off guard. But I think that's kind of interesting. He was just kind of focused on more power and wasn't paying attention to Trinity basically, and Trinity caught him off guard. So
yeah, because he's a cause and effect guy. The Frenchman, if he like almost foresees everything, knows how it's going to happen. But that was the one time where he didn't think it was going to be. It was all because of love.
Now, did he literally want the eyes of the Oracle, or did he just want the power of foresight that the Oracle has?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe the literal eyes is how I took it.
Either way, that's a creepy thing to ask for.
And the wife was just going along with it.
Yeah, sure. Ask for some stranger's eyes. That's not a weird thing to have at all.
God, that marriage, they've been around for so many, iterations. Just reach that acceptance
point. How
point.
do you keep things fresh?
Try to keep, that's right. That's right. Take body parts from people. Ooh.
Yeah, shoot your husband's henchman in the head.
So many problems.
You'd think they programmed some couples counseling for those two.
So many.
The machine AI just realized, hey, we're having some problems with the Merovingian and Persephone. Maybe we gotta program a counselor for them. Let's help them out.
Oh God, that's funny as hell.
I mean,
you see Robin Williams coming out, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I just had to tell that to Matt David. I just said it wasn't his fault either.
God.
I don't know. I feel like that the train station, way station, club scene was just almost like a cheap way to get the Merovingian back in the movie. And this club scene, all it did was just show him and Persephone in different outfits.
Yeah.
He's still speaking in that long, monologue-y type thing. Like, I always want more power. And so, what's the best power? Bring me the eyes of the Oracle.
While he eats his olives.
Right.
And then points with the glass like a douchebag. It's like, man, this guy.
Nobody's intimidating while they're drinking a martini. Unless your name's James Bond, you're not intimidating anybody with your 3 olive martini.
I mean, the concept of the train station was kind of cool, like a purgatory. And it was interesting with the programs. Wow, LB, the programs, it did have the reveal that they could love. And love is just a word, and karma is just a word, which that was unique, and how they need to use the Frenchmen to ferry the programs that are about to be deleted. So it was kind of cool.
Very Buddhist to say, like, oh, love is just a word, karma is just a word, like not having attachments. It's a very kind of plays up some of the Buddhism aspects that we've seen in this movie.
This film's about philosophy, Chris. They have to throw it in there.
Drives home the point of philosophy for sure. And I think the main theme that we pointed out in Reloaded was choice. But then but what's the theme here? Is it faith? Is it trust?
I thought it was like death, because they always talk about like things ending the whole time. Because isn't that what Smith says? And I think the Oracle, all things end.
Yeah, everything that has a beginning has an end.
Yeah.
Everybody die, or at least Trinity dies, Neo dies.
Yeah.
The Smiths and all the programs he assimilated die, with the exception of the Oracle, which was weird.
And the little girl.
Yeah, to me, I thought if that were the case, and we saw all the other programs die once the machine was able to delete the Smith program, wouldn't that mean that every program is now dead or deleted, including the Oracle?
That was, my question about it was this, because what does Smith do when he takes over? Is that program deleted, or is he just kind of like a skin on an avatar that you change? I don't know. I'm going to take it as Smith just was a skin. And then, because I think at the end, the architect, when the Oracle talks to him, he's like, oh, they'll get a choice if they want to leave. He'll allow them. So maybe Smith didn't kill everyone.
Well, and he's more of a virus, right? So maybe you get some anti-software program, and you run that through all the programs, and maybe you get the programs back. I don't know.
Yeah, when Smith took over Neo, that's what the literal Ex Machina did. It injected antivirus program in there.
Here's your Avast update. We're deleting the Smith worm off of the Matrix.
Who would have thought? But it makes sense from a computer perspective.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. It's just I don't know,
anticlimactic.
It's a little anticlimactic that all Neo has to do is surrender himself to Smith, and then the Deus Ex Machina takes over and uploads the new version of Avast.
That's why people actually say that Smith is the one, because in the end it takes Smith, assimilating with Neo to actually cause the end of the Matrix.
Well, they're both ones.
They're the two.
They're the twos.
So this film is super religious, though. Speaking of when the end happens, I saw a cross on Neo when he assimilates, and the light comes out of his eyes and everything. Very Jesus oriented. He was the chosen one.
Yeah. Walk by faith, not by sight.
Oh my God, yes.
He's blind for most of the movie.
Yeah.
The only thing he can see is the machine code. And he's now become full-on Jesus-like. I mean, he can stop all the bombs with just his thoughts, but it becomes too much for him. Very almost like Blind Samurai meets Jesus thing.
Yeah, he was so... The religious elements in this film is so amped up. Because before, the second one was prophecy, right? But now even Morpheus is hope. I have faith. It's oh, okay.
Don't know how Morpheus still has faith even after realizing that the prophecy was all BS and there was 5 other prophecies that existed beforehand.
I don't know. Maybe. And that man's been through a lot. Because imagine just being awakened from the Matrix, number one. Everything is a lie. And now the prophecy?
What do you do after that?
I don't know. And his wife left him. So, I mean, it's just... That man's been through a lot.
Yeah. Girlfriend dumps him. Turns out he's just in a long line of gullible people who found the one, quote unquote, even though there's been 5 others before him. That's got to shake you to your core.
He's too stoic, apparently. I don't know. It was really weird. I don't know, because we've seen this in movies where, when in doubt, rely heavily on religious elements to tell a story if you're uncertain.
And to be fair, I mean, every movie makes some sort of religious allegory or comparison at some point. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. Sort of like Smith assimilating things.
Which for him was pretty cool, because he didn't even know why he was making the choices he made at the end, especially after he took over the Oracle, which is interesting because Smith, his whole idea from the first one is, everything, there's a process. a chain of events. There's an order to things. But even at the end, he just started taking over people. And then he's like, I don't even know why I'm saying the things I'm saying. So it's kind of nice, like, to see his character grow in a way. And that monologue, awesome.
So many monologues, again, from Smith. And this time around, Smith is the most guilty of it. It's like, why do you persist, Mr. Anderson?
Why? I like that, though. I love Hugo Weaving. I'm like, just. And he takes off his glasses. He looks terrifying without it. Those eyes.
I don't know, that big fight between the two of them is just...
In the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, as much as we praise the action scenes from the Wachowskis, yeah, again, it was just the CGI again, I mean, it's just... It was the same thing as Reloaded with the Smith fight. It didn't look good to me. I don't know, and I think it was too long, and I almost felt like I was watching like a CGI anime fight, like Japanese anime. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably the biggest negative I would probably point out in the film. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
I'm going to agree with you. I think the two big fight scenes at the end are the most almost boring because the robots attacking, with the military guy shooting. I'm like, number one, tactically, that doesn't make sense. Why the robots would just like form like one stream. There's millions of them. Why not just separate and pick off everyone? So that just didn't make sense tactically, and it just didn't look good. And then the Smith scene in the rain. Cool touch, right? The rain, the dark. Ooh, he's evil. But it just went on too long. And the whole point in the end was for him to get assimilated and surrender himself. I just think it took too long. We don't need that much.
I think this is the problem with this movie was that was formatted for IMAX screens. And IMAX screens are obviously huge. And the rain, I'm sure, looks great on that big screen, but when you compress it to a home movie or a home television screen, it doesn't look the same. It looks pixelated. It looks odd. Yeah. And this is the problem now. Like, we're not capable of watching this in the way it was originally intended to, because they're not re-releasing this in IMAX, and nobody has a 400-foot screen in their home.
You mean like how Martin Scorsese intended The Irishman to be released on Netflix?
Yeah, sure he did. That two-faced liar. Oh, yeah, streaming services like aren't movies and blah, blah, blah. And then what do? You release The Irishman on Netflix. You freaking liar.
Did you?
Why don't you say what you really mean, Martin Scorsese? How about you stop being picky about what films qualify as films and where they get released, huh? Make a movie that's worth watching and not 4.5 hours long. Freaking Scorsese.
So, Matrix Revolution.
What did you think, Chris, of the battles? Were they kind of boring, or did you like them? Like, and that's okay if you did.
The Zion fight it suffers from the same problem that we've seen in other action scenes in this series, where it seems to drag on a bit longer than it should, and it's hard to figure out sort of the geography of this battle. Like, we don't get like a top-down view of Zion. Like, is the dock separate from Zion? Like, is there some sort of gate or separate? Is the dock separate from Zion? That's what I want to know, because they make a big deal about, oh, we got to hold the dock, and then through fortuitous events, the kid is able to open the lock or the gate to Dock 3, and the ship breaks through and sets off the EMP, which I thought that's what Locke wanted all along. I thought his main goal was to set off an EMP, destroy the machines, and mount a defense in the cave. That's incredibly dirty. And then when they do that, when the EMP does go off, he's pissed off about it. It's like nothing's ever good enough for this guy.
He's never happy.
Like, isn't this what you wanted all along, Harry Lennox? Make up your mind, son.
He's just a Debbie Downer.
Or whatever the equivalent of that is in the military. Like, the person who thinks they're never, ever good enough for them.
Yep. That was him. proud but never satisfied. Yeah, I was confused by his choices.
Again, military that's not very good.
Yeah. Pick the wrong people.
It does scale down some of the action a little bit. I would have liked to have seen more of the hovercraft chase scenes as they're going through the tunnel, the service network, and the tunnels, trying to outpace the Sentinels and destroy as many as they can before getting back to Zion. It's certainly tense to watch those, but the fight in the dock with the APUs just seems more like something out of an anime fight, like out of Ghost in the Shell or Cowboy Bebop or something. Seems more along those lines of where that sequence should be.
Yeah, and these people really aren't in the Matrix much, this movie. It's like right at the beginning and then at the end. There's really not much Matrixing.
No, there's a long period where nobody's in the Matrix, and then Neo volunteers himself to hop back into the Matrix.
Yeah, because he figures it out from the Oracle what his choice, because that he meets with her. It was so weird because he's like, "What choice do I make?" Well, you already know the choice that you're making.
No, I don't. That's why I'm asking you.
You just haven't thought of it yet, or whatever. It was so weird.
Whatever eloquent thing she says to get him to make up his own mind.
And then he finally does, but it takes forever. It's like he still doesn't. He knows what he's supposed to do, but he takes forever to make it up. It's like, dude, you could have saved all those lives if you just would have gone to them, to the city and sacrificed yourself.
Although, speaking of the Machine City, did you have any expectations as to like how it would look, or did you expect it to look more like steampunkish, cyberpunkish, whatever the right genre word is here? Like, was this what you were expecting out of it?
I guess so, yeah, because I didn't know like what the machines would do. Like why did they need a city? I just imagined a giant like Tesla charging port that they back themselves in and charge and then get out. So I had no expectations. I actually thought it was pretty cool, especially with the little critters crawling around and the weird baby face looking thing. It was weird, but I was like, all right, cool. They have a life too, right? Programs have feelings. So that was my thoughts.
I have similar thoughts to the machine's defenses. Like, you mean to tell me that this is the best that the machines have? Just throwing bombs at them and just seeing what sticks? It's certainly a cool visual of having Neo explode the bombs and the ship rising up towards the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like this, you don't have any like lasers or anything, gargantuan size that can just blow this ship out of the water. Like, they just see the ship coming on their radar and be like, oh, boop, press the button and it blows up.
Yeah. Where were the Star Trek lasers? Where were the torpedoes?
You got to send thousands and thousands of bombs to destroy one itty bitty ship. You're an advanced race of machines and artificial intelligence. Just zap them out of the sky with a push of a button.
Maybe they were just so arrogant that they didn't think they needed anything more. They're like the architect. He's like, those pesky humans, they won't get this far. So I don't think they ever have gotten that far. Or no one's ever gone to the Machine City before.
No, and I think you're right about that. But since nobody's been here before, nobody's able to describe it to us. We have no frame of reference of what to expect as opposed to what we were told about Zion. And so when they get there and they see that it's industrial is not the right word, but it's like there's like clean lines to it. Mm-hmm. Obviously a lot of power and electricity flowing through it, and you get the creepy baby face Deus Ex Machina thing float out of nowhere and yell at Neo that we don't need your help.
It's so weird. And how could he breathe? I thought the reason why the humans were underground too is because the air was too saturated.
It could have been.
They must have forgot. The movie was 4 years old, The Matrix, so they couldn't remember
what
the hell they wrote.
It's another one of those lovely plot holes that are just so glaring. It gets to the point where some of them are like impossible to ignore. Like we talked about.
Neo.
The Oracle not being deleted along with everybody else.
Yeah.
Neo not being able to breathe even though the air is supposed to be toxic up there.
They needed to drive this one home. So like, all right, we're in this far. Let's just finish it up. They can't remember past the disappointment from the last film.
And I think there's something to be said about possibly waiting. And we talked about this a little bit. Like there should have, like, the Wachowskis had 4 or 5 years to develop the first Matrix film, and then the turnaround time here was so short to develop these two films. Not only to film them concurrently over an 18-month schedule, but then you had to write them, you had to direct them, and then you have post-production. I don't think it helps either that these two films came out not only in the same year, but 6 months apart from each other.
Yeah.
You do not see this anymore for anything. We saw this with Star Wars, where The Last Jedi came out in December, and then 5 months later, Solo comes out. And as people have Star Wars fatigue, and Solo is a box office bomb. And I feel like that maybe the studio should have waited to release this film. I can certainly identify points in this film and combine with Reloaded where it feels like it should have been more of a mini series instead of what's essentially a 4.5 hour 2-part film. And I don't know, like what do you guys think? Like, where do we assign blame here? Is it the studio for wanting to release this film, or the Wachowskis not taking the time to properly develop this?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would guess it'd probably be the studio, because isn't it always the studio's fault, the executive's fault? Like, we want this, and basically the creators have to do what they're saying. I mean, that's what I would guess. I don't know if that's what actually happened, but I completely agree that this was totally rushed, and everything was just done in too much of a compressed amount of time. And then for me, I don't know about you guys. Revolutions just feels like the final war film, basically. And that's all it is to me. I don't really get anything else out of it. I don't think a whole movie needed to be that long, honestly. I think the two final battles, the Battle of Zion and then Neo's battle with Smith, I think that takes up a little bit more of an hour than the film. And, think of, like, we can just think of recent examples like Endgame, Avengers Endgame. I think the final battle was really only 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes, but it wasn't as long as The Matrix here. So, it dragged on for me. I think they could have probably done a little bit more with the story with Reloaded and, expand upon that, and then, shorten that final battle that for me. And I don't know how other people would feel about that, but I think that would have probably made a better series of events.
I mean, in Endgame, we got payoffs in that movie that were building for 10, 15 movies prior to that point.
I agree with you there. This film reminds me very much of The Hobbit, where it's like there's 3 movies, and it didn't have to be 3 movies long, because that final Hobbit film was just war. And it was just such a letdown, because it's too much war. You're just like, all right, this doesn't need to last that long. Because the whole point of the film is Neo, gets assimilated by Smith, and then it's over. They reboot the Matrix, Like, they literally spill it out for you in the second one. Zion will die, and it's going to restart a new iteration. So
I would have been fine if they had taken the time to develop more filler stories between. Because there's 6 months that happen in between The Matrix and Matrix Reloaded. There's several stories that could have been told in between there to really emphasize the point that there is a coming war, as opposed to dropping us in 3 days before the machines arrive at Zion. There's so much that could have been done, and also like spacing it out too. Instead of making this big battle happen 6 months after Neo arrives in the Matrix, why not set it like a year or two afterwards for the machines to really build up a force and like allow us more time to get to know these characters, flesh out their stories, introduce new ones in a way. Because when Neo and Trinity die, unfortunately, we're not allowed to really grieve for them at any point. Like we get Neo crying over Trinity's corpse, but for us it's just like we barely know you. It would have been nice to get to know Trinity a little bit more, and Neo and his sacrifice. I mean, I don't know. Is he dead? Is he really dead though? Because he's carried away, and I feel like if he were truly dead, like wouldn't the machines have just left him there?
No, they just they put him back into the system, I think, and it's just going to start a new iteration, in my opinion. Yeah, because he dies, or I don't know if he sacrificed himself. They restart his heart. They do some Matrix crap on him, and Trinity, like what he did to her, and they just reinsert them. Yeah, it's just it really is hurry up quick. She dies, and then you don't get to process it. I don't know what is up with this series and trying to kill Trinity. Because the last film, that was like the whole arc for her, like, right? Her dying, and they saves her, then she dies again. They just don't want Trinity to survive. Maybe that was her whole point, is her character. I don't know.
There's even moments in the first film where they try so hard to kill her.
Yeah, she just never can catch a break. Never.
These movies should have focused on Trinity than how many times they tried to kill her. Because clearly she's the main focus and target of the agents or whoever. Because, I mean, there's an opening scene in the first film, and then she's dangling off the building during the helicopter sequence. She's falling down the building and Reloaded, and then here she's like Bane tries to kill her all the time.
It just doesn't make sense. And she's so hard to kill.
The Matrix, all the times we tried to kill Trinity. I mean, but yeah, like Jeremy, I gotta agree with you. I think it's definitely the studios. I think it's a combination of their impatience and their greed to get these films out, because they, like we talked about in Reloaded, they committed a sizable budget for the marketing, lots of money, and they thought, hey, what's a good way to recuperate our money? Let's release 2 major blockbusters in the same year, 6 months apart from each other. That's a brilliant idea.
And that is why you never see it again, because it does not work. No, because sometimes people, like, it takes a whole year for people to see a movie or more, you know? Like, give it time to, like, marinate. Studios just saw money. Cash cow.
I mean, Endgame was released a full year after Infinity War came out.
But that also, I feel like with Endgame, it built, like you said, there's 15 films of building. Like, they really, for this, they put all their eggs in the basket hoping that Reloaded would be good enough to draw people back for a second one. And I just, if they would have waited a year or two to see how it was going to, unfold, then they could have done some reshoots, taken more time with the editing, But no, they just went all eggs in a basket. They put it all on red. It did not work out for them.
No, it didn't. Well, and it also didn't work out for a couple other people in this film. Did you have a red shirt?
A red shirt in this film?
There's so many.
There's too many. Everyone dies. I don't know. Well, who? No, everyone dies, so I don't really have anyone that stuck out to me.
I think we touched on the moment where the Z and her comrade Chara are shooting the rockets at the diggers. Like, my red shirt would have to be Chara.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she's the only one who's shooting the rockets. Z's not doing any of that work. She built the rockets, obviously, but Chara's putting her life on the line to destroy the diggers. And we know Chara for all of 15 minutes before she gets skewered horribly by those Sentinels.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that. Because when they launched the first missile, the second missile, I'm like, oh, they're so close. Well, maybe if they go somewhere else tactically and then reload. Nope.
Maybe if they had taken the time to introduce that character in Reloaded, like, her death would have had significantly more impact. We briefly get to know her, and then, boom, she's dead.
Right? Yeah. I like how it was Z, too. It wasn't she the one that was like so mad at her husband for joining the Nebuchadnezzar because her brothers died? But here she goes. I'm just going to go venture out in public and with the potential of getting murdered.
I think, she said something like along the lines like, I want to try and make sure Link comes back after being so upset that he's gone all the time.
Well, he can come back, but it doesn't matter for her, apparently. How about you, Jeremy?
Apart from those deaths, I have to jump right back to the beginning that that the woman who's kind of acting as like the doctor.
Oh yeah.
Since she gets killed by Bane / Smith.
He like stabs her in the gut.
Yeah, for all her troubles, gets a scalpel in the chest.
What a jerk. Which I don't know if a scalpel in the chest would kill you.
You
It
gotta-
looked like it was pretty low.
You got to shove it in there pretty good, don't you?
You got to twist around, you know. You can't just get a little ching ching, you know. You got to move it.
And,
Unless
and this is the Anatomy Hour with Forcefedscifi.
how to allegedly murder someone. Great.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. No one's saying nothing.
Hey, the charges were dropped.
Any lens flares?
I touched on this a little bit, but I have to say the ridiculous way those APUs are reloaded, exposing the kid to, and everybody else who has to reload those things to death and destruction, is the worst way I could conceive of having to reload a big weapon like that. Is putting more people in danger just to do it.
That's like some Saving Private Ryan crap right there.
Yeah.
The ammo guy.
Go get the bandoliers. What happened to the last guy who was getting him? Oh, he's dead.
Good luck.
Best of luck, kid.
Yeah, mine too. Well, actually, mine was the attack formation of the machines. That was just so stupid. A stream. Like, what are they going to do? Just overwhelm them?
He looks cool, though, doesn't it?
It did look cool. But even like when the guy died, he had like the scratches on his face. I'm like, what do they do? The machines with their little lobster arms, like, like just scratch his face. Like, I don't know, stab him to death.
Such a brutal death. Like gurgling. And
I'm surprised
like,
that they didn't think to just like push him off the hanger. You know, because the machine, all it would have to do is just drive, you know, and boop. And then they just fall down the cavern and bye-bye. They're dead. They're not surviving that fall.
Well, there's lasers too that those things have. Like they could have just like targeted one individually and used their lasers and just zoop, like bifurcate them or something. Like you have the best weapon, the weapon we've been talking about using, like, and it was in the first film because they used the laser to cut into the hull.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You have lasers on those things. Just zoop. If that's what you want to do is kill them all, use the freaking lasers.
They must have forgot what they wrote 4 years prior. I think that's got to be it.
Yeah,
they had to have forgotten. Or they got to do something new and fresh. We can't revisit. You know.
No, let's have them use the claws and skewer people to death. And cut people up. Death by 1,000 cuts. Literally.
They're taking a page out of Rian Johnson's Star Wars, you know, military tactics. You know, let's just drop bombs in space.
Drop all the bombs.
How about you, Jeremy? Any lens flares?
No, I think I can't really think of any. But yeah, maybe the one that I'd agree with you, Sean, is the machines coming in that straight line. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, that's goofy.
And then maybe with that the just kind of tropey, the captain just yelling while he's
So dumb.
shooting all of them.
It's so dumb.
For Zion! They say knuckle up, what is it, like 3 or 4 times during that sequence? I don't even know what that means.
They just wanted their own catchphrases, my guess.
Yeah, it's still nothing beats Avengers Assemble.
Never will. Any toxic fandom?
Oh, yes. And it was fun. It was a fun one. Though even though Neo planned to peacefully surrender to the machines when he reached the city, he made no effort to communicate this to the machines via radio. Considering that Neo still had the codes that the architect wanted, and that the EMP from a single ship would barely make a dent in the city's defenses, the machines would have surely been open to a peaceful surrender, but Neo does not even attempt this, resulting in Trinity's death. So this person clearly has some insight into the motivations of the machines, even though they had sent a massive army to kill everybody who's underground. They would accept some sort of peaceful surrender.
They must have been mad at Trinity's death. That's all I got out of that.
Like,
They're really butthurt over that.
It's clearly butthurt over that.
What? It's so dumb.
So dumb.
It is dumb. Like, she dies. I damned if they watch Game of Thrones.
It's like, well, you're going to be really disappointed here, bud.
Look at the review for every Game of Thrones episode. I mean, crap, man. It's going to be okay. That's the whole point of the movie. Everything has a beginning, has an end.
Yes.
They clearly missed the point.
It's a trilogy. 3 is the magic number.
Except for the fourth one.
That it's a tetra trilogy, quadrilogy? I don't know what the right word is anymore. I don't do math.
I don't know. But no. I don't think it's a quadrilogy. I think it's a different, because, and this is a little, for Alien Resurrection, they coined quadrilogy for when they released the DVDs, and that's not a word, but I guess they made it a word. So maybe it is a word now.
I don't know.
There you go, people. Let us know what you think.
Did you have thoughts about who was not doing their job the way they should have done? Who's not doing their job in this movie?
Well, after discussing him at the beginning of the episode, the whole military. That's what I think.
I'm gonna back Jeremy on that one. Definitely, the military did not do their job at all.
We're indicting Commander Locke and Captain Mifune. Like, you're not doing your job, sons.
It just seems so needless. What a waste of human life.
Yeah.
No, thank God that they died.
I got to lump in Captain Roland, who originally found Bane as a survivor of that last group there. And, clearly he suspects Bane knows more than he does or is saying, and doesn't do a greater job of, like, locking him up in the brig or making sure he can't escape, because he kills somebody on the way out the door and blinds Neo and through cause and effect manages to get Trinity killed too. So yeah, Captain Roland, not doing your job. You've got a prisoner on board. Lock him up.
Basic 101.
You're a captain for a reason, man. Act like it.
I don't think he was a good captain either. Like, he really didn't want to be there, I felt like.
No.
Which bothered me, because I'm like, didn't you volunteer to go out there? Like, come on.
Had a major issue with that moment that Niobe looks at him and like, no, like, I'm the captain of the ship. You're not doing anything. Yeah. Like, he can take mine. Like, and don't give me any speech about, that crap you just said. It's my ship. I'll do what I want with it.
Kudos to Naomi. She was doing her job.
Yes. Finally, somebody actually doing their job, and hell of a pilot manages to have some pretty cool maneuvers getting them back to Zion.
Though they did say that she's a hell of a pilot like 10 times in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, to really drive it home. It's like, all right, we get it. You're a good pilot. I don't need, it's like the choice thing. It's like, come on.
Do love that moment where Roland goes, oh, God, I didn't even know the ship could do that. Like, you've been captain for how long? You didn't know what the capabilities of your craft are?
Not doing his job.
Nope. Failures all around.
And you know what else didn't really do its job? This film with its gross.
Oh, my God.
Because it only made, I think, $427.3 million off of that $150 budget.
Good God.
Not as much as the last one. I think it was like that sour taste in people's mouths.
But I think when you look at Reloaded and Revolutions combined, I mean, this film made its money. Like, it made over $1 billion, and add that in with the total from the first film. This series has grossed $1.5 billion. Like, it's made up its money. It's very successful. I mean, obviously critics and us have crapped on this movie for as long as it's been out.
Oh yeah, they called it anticlimactic and less philosophically ambiguous than its predecessor. Ooh. That's a mean criticism.
A little bit, but I think this is also drives on the point that you can't make everybody happy, because Matrix Reloaded definitely heavy on those exposition dumps and lengthy monologues, whereas there's a lack of it here in Revolutions, and people are not happy about that either.
Right?
Like, make up your mind as to what you want or what you don't want.
I agree with you there, because this one got a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes, which the other one had a 73, but this one, it's like a massive... So it's like, we did all the things you asked.
Yeah, you definitely see, like, the peak with the first film going all the way down to the bottom with the third film. At least, from here it can only go up with the Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, yeah, it's going to make money just because I think people forgot.
I mean, but this also helped Keanu Reeves' career. I mean, he had a bit of a, I guess, maybe not exactly like a downturn in the mid-2000s, but I mean, Carrie Ann Moss found her way into Marvel's Netflix shows with Jessica Jones. Lawrence Fishburne, still doing Lawrence Fishburne things, does all the things he wants to do. Also found his way into the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now we got to get Keanu Reeves in the MCU in some way.
Oh, I'm sure he'll get in there.
He's got
Yeah,
it.
he even said he'd be honored to be part of it. So I'm sure they'll find something for him. There's lots of ways they could include him.
Where is he going to find the time, though, with all the John Wick movies he does? What do they call it now? It's like the Keanu Sans or the I don't know what they're called. It seems like he's in everything. He's unavoidable now.
Yeah. They'll find a way, I'm sure. Because if they can get Christian Bale to be in the MCU, I'm sure they can get him.
I mean, Ghost Rider is taken. I think Gabriel Luna is Ghost Rider. But I don't know. Like, there's got to be something out there for Keanu Reeves to do in the MCU. I mean, for God's sakes, Oscar Isaac is finding his way into the MCU.
Actually, I know we're going off on a tangent, but I think Keanu Reeves was supposed to be the character that Jude Law was in Captain Marvel. At least I think that was what the rumor was. I'm glad it didn't turn out that way, because I would like Keanu Reeves to have a different part in the MCU as opposed to turn out to be some bad guy.
Yeah, I agree. If Keanu's going to be in the MCU, I want him to be in it for a while. And
Or if he's a bad guy, just be a really good bad guy.
yeah,
Epic.
have him be like the next Loki or something. Have him be a Loki variant. That'd be fun to watch.
Something. Then he can do his kung fu moves.
I still know kung fu.
But for the Wachowskis, I don't know if we talked about it. Their careers kind of haven't really been great since this. Well, I think Lily has had a renaissance with that TV show.
Yeah, she's doing a show for Showtime right now called Work in Progress. That's been a lot of rave reviews. She's been the showrunner on that, I think, since 2019. And Lana has kind of taken over the reins as sort of the creative director of the Matrix series. Obviously, she's doing it with the blessing of Lily. But yeah, like their movies after the Matrix trilogy really are not the same quality, because we have Speed Racer, which no idea what they were trying to go for with that movie.
And nobody asked for it either.
Right.
Like, sorry, was not curious.
And they did Cloud Atlas.
Which I actually kind of I saw it in theaters. I was one of the 10 people that saw it. But it's a long movie. Long. I'm sure we'll review it one day.
Maybe. Is it science fiction?
It is.
Okay,
It is
I have
sci-fi.
no idea what it's about. I have no frame of reference for it. So yeah, I mean, if it's science fiction, we'll add it to the list. Why not?
Yay.
And then they did Jupiter Ascending, which was basically they were trying to do like a cosmic Matrix type of story. Nobody knew what was going on there. I think it was a bloated plot. Nobody could make sense of it from the trailers.
It was weird and not good. It wasn't good. I saw it with my old man, and he was like, "That was the worst movie I've ever seen." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Mila Kunis is hot, though." I'm like, "Yeah, it's about it, but you can watch better films with her."
Right.
So I don't recommend that.
So Warner Brothers and the Wachowskis have returned to the well that is the Matrix, and Resurrections coming at us very soon here.
Yeah, we're gonna see it, and I'm sure release it on here. That'll be our number 4.
We'll close out our Matrix suite of episodes. But with all that in mind, let's rate Matrix Revolutions. So on our unique scale for the Forcefed Sci-Fi podcast of would watch, would own, and would host a viewing party, I'll lead it off here, and I'll kick it to one of you guys here in a second. So, and I'll lead this off by saying that this isn't the satisfying conclusion I think we were all hoping for in this series. I think and a lot of things that we touched on should have happened here. There should have been a couple more movies to set up these characters, really give us time to appreciate them and love them and be sad when they pass away and relish in their victories. I think more time should have been devoted crafting a story fitting of Neo's sacrifice and being able to see the peace that he brought about instead of just dying unceremoniously alone in the machine world. And I think the in-movie plot holes that we touched on about the Oracle not being deleted along with the rest of the Smiths and the other ones that we've mentioned before, I think they're too glaring to ignore. This would be like a J.J. Abrams movie on steroids if his movies were just entirely made of plot holes that weren't resolved. And I think the philosophy is scaled back in terms of for the sake of action and spectacle. I mean, I think we're certainly falling into the category of people like, well, how much is too much? I know that nothing is. It's better to have a little as opposed to nothing, and that's what's here in this film. Is there's no core philosophy that we've come to know with these films, and I wish the concept of Smith existing outside of the Matrix was a bigger part of this film. I think we've all agreed that this should have been something that should have been a bigger point in the first act and going into the second act. But all in all, I don't feel happy about this film. Like, it just sort of ends for me. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad about it. For me, it's just over. And for that, I'm going to call this a would not watch. So, Jeremy, how about you? What are your thoughts on Revolutions here?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's a film that's just there to kind of close out the battle and / war between Zion and the machines. And I think that's its main purpose, and it takes up most of the film. So we don't really get a lot of time going into characters and maybe a different storyline too or something. It's just kind of thrown at you with just a basic film, a basic war film almost. So I wish that they would have spent more time doing something else, like you said, maybe something with Smith in the real world, or shorten this big Zion battle and explore something else. So yeah, I would probably have to say with this film by itself, a would not watch. However, I mean, I think if you're watching this trilogy, you're probably going to want some type of closure, even if it's not a very good closure. Then I would say a would watch, but with the film by itself, I would say would not watch.
Fair enough. I can definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with that. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I echo your guys' sentiments with everything. For me, it's a would not watch unless it's part of the whole. I would put it as a would watch as well. Overall characters, concepts are really interesting, but it's just like a big dumb war film. I wish to fix it, if there was a way to fix it, instead of having that Matrix video game be released, instead I wish they would have taken all that hour-long footage and put it in Reloaded, and then maybe with that had enough time and to push Smith's character into this film, have it end sooner for Reloaded, and then have more of the things that happen into this one, because then it would have beefed up the story a little bit more, or shown Bane disabling the ships, the big battle where they found his body, how they ended the last film. That would have been something more interesting and would have given the story a little bit something more to fight for, rather than just the weird train station and then just the big battles. So, and then yeah, the ending of Neo just being reinserted into the Matrix is just kind of it's just I don't know, it's melancholy, because they're just repeating the cycle now for the 7th time. And it's in the end, you're just looking at the philosophical concepts going, well, then what is the point of this? Is there a point of this film? Was the whole purpose for it just to repeat? And to me, it's well, meta, interesting, but ultimately unsatisfactory for a Hollywood film. So with that, no, I wouldn't watch it. I'm good.
I would say we don't know for sure if Neo is reinserted. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And I think even though we're kind of saying the Matrix is starting over, it is kind of starting over in a different way, in that the city, what's left of the city of Zion, has survived. So right now there's, as far as the story goes, there's a peace between machines and the humans, and we'll see where that takes us with Resurrections. Maybe the piece is done with now, and the inevitability of the one has to come back again, like the architect said, and Reloaded. So just wanted to throw that comment out there as we're going into Resurrections. So
good lead up for Resurrections.
Mm-hmm.
Good to have these movies fresh in our mind as we head into the next entry in the Matrix sequel coming out very soon. We're going to be watching that, and then we'll hopefully provide our commentary on that very soon. Sean, Jeremy, once again, pleasure to record with you guys and discuss this series of films. And if you all enjoyed today's episode, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps to drive us up the charts, as well as help people like you find the show. We are across the spectrum of social media with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Forcefedscifi. You can check out and download episodes from Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you find podcasts. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Finally, you can check out our website, Forcefedscifi.com, for show notes and links to all of our social media. And so for all of us at the Forcefed Sci-Fi team, we will see you next time.